Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Trustcast show. And we have with us today Dan Petrosky. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Zane. Glad to be here.
So, today's guest inherited a 60-year-old law firm, and I don't know whether inherit is the right term because he's worked there for a long time, from a man who ran 760 marathons and practiced personal injury law until he was 87. And Dan Petrosky is now the owner of DeFranzo and Petrosky in Waterbury, Connecticut, where he settled 525 cases in 6 years, coaches his kids' sports teams, fosters rescue dogs, and self-identifies as a savant of useless sports trivia. So let's go right to the most important question. Your LinkedIn headline calls you a savant of useless sports knowledge and movie quotes. Give me one piece of sports trivia right now that proves it.
So back in, well, Larry Bird's my favorite all-time athlete, and he's got a career scoring average of 24.3 points per game and 10.0 rebounds per game. He averaged a double-double for his career for the great Boston Celtics.
For the great Boston Celtics. And if you were a Lakers fan, you'd probably, well, even Magic loved Larry Bird.
Oh yeah, once they kind of got together and realized that they were basically the same person, they became lifelong friends and each other's biggest champions. If you ever hear the other speak about when you hear them speak about each other, each says that the other is the greatest player they've ever seen or gone against. There's that level of respect between both of them.
Yeah, it's fun to watch them play against each other. So you were all state in both basketball and tennis in high school. I'm a tennis player and played 4 years of college basketball at Colby. How'd you end up in a courtroom instead of a gym?
Well, I tried for a couple of years after law school. I stayed in the gym, then I stopped going to the gym, and so the only place they'd let me in anymore is the courtroom. Uh, so it kind of, the competitive athletic juices kind of lend themselves to, kind of duking it out in court as needed. So I
Yeah.
kind of got my fix there.
So you've compared practicing law to a 162 game MLB season where some days you go 0 for 4 with three strikeouts. What does the baseball mindset, because you can't always control everything that's going on as an attorney when you're in a courtroom. What does the baseball mindset actually do for you in the middle of a tough case?
So it's just like to me, like the baseball season is just, it's the biggest grind of any professional sports league there is. I mean, it starts now and it's going to go until almost November.
Yeah.
A lot of travel. You're going to have, weeks where, the best hitters in the world, can't get on base and can't hit the baseball. And then you're going to have, weeks and months where you're just putting up historic numbers. And so for me, the baseball analogy is you got to stay as even keeled as possible. When you hear all the great hitters talk, they never get too high, never get too low. Um, but even if you make an out, it could be a productive out. And so that's what I kind of focus on a daily basis in the practice of law. It may not be the walk-off grand slam in the bottom of the ninth inning to win a World Series game, but I could move a runner over to third base and then my teammate can get them home the next pitch. So that's kind of how I look at it.
So Gene DeFranzo founded your firm in 1961, practiced for over 60 years, settled thousands of cases, and ran 760 marathons. This doesn't even seem possible. What was it like working alongside a man like that? He had quite a work ethic, I guess.
He did. That Gene was amazing. The crazy thing, Zane, is he didn't start competing in marathons until he was like 53 years old.
Wow.
He essentially would run a marathon a week. He'd come in, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. He'd fly out somewhere, do the marathon over the weekend, be back the next week for a couple days, and fly out again. So yeah, he was just someone that was really my first mentor in the law. I worked with a lot of good people prior to Gene, but until working with him, I never really had someone to kind of teach me the ins and outs, and he was able to do that for me. And yeah, his work ethic was second to none. Even though he was one of the slower runners, his goal, he wanted to finish no matter what. Even if it took him 10 hours, he wanted to get across that finish line. And that's something that I've really taken from him. I'm not a runner myself, but just that I've kind of tried to put into my own life, see something through, do your best no matter what.
Boy, he had to have a lot of grit. So when did he stop running?
The pandemic in 2020. is kind of what ended that. His last marathon was in Las Vegas in February of 2020. Then the world shut down, and then that he didn't get back to it after that.
So he was like 80 years old.
Yeah, his last marathon he was 80. That was 2020. 80, 83, 84 would have been his last marathon.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
So you started at the firm. I can't, gosh, I, hope that I could do something like that at that age. So you started there as an associate in 2013, then you left in 2019 and then came back in 2021 as Gene's first and only partner. I mean, his practice there. Why'd you leave? And then what made you come back?
So I left because I had an opportunity to work at a bigger firm in Connecticut, and the experience that I got there, getting exposed to different types of cases, and also just having other colleagues and coworkers to run ideas off of. Gene's firm, we're a small firm, but being at a place with 12, 13 other attorneys that I could bounce ideas off of just really kind of opened my eyes to developing my practice. And then my decision to come back was because I loved it here, and I saw an incredible opportunity. You have great clients. I have great coworkers that are still here that I worked with as an associate and now as the owner. And so it felt like coming home to me. It was special for me to be able to do that and carry on Gene's name and tradition.
So I see that you still, he's the first name in the firm. That's really a nice touch. So he passed away in 2023 at 87. How did you handle that transition? Going from partner to sole owner of the firm.
Yeah, that's something I'm working on every day. It's one thing when you're the employee, um, just kind of grinding, doing your work and not having to give a thought to the other 100 things that go into running a business. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's been eye-opening for me. And so I've just been trying to learn as much as possible by, speaking to, other friends of mine who have, gone out on their own, attending seminars, really getting active on LinkedIn, like listening to podcasts, reading books, and just trying to take it all in and find out what works for me.
So you settled is 525 cases, is that right? And first chaired 12 jury trials in 72 months. Walk me through what a typical week looks like when you're juggling that kind of volume. Are you still juggling that kind of volume?
Yeah, we still have that volume. I mean, last year I settled 106 cases in 2025. I didn't try any cases, so I've kind of taken a step back from being inside the courtroom litigating cases because my responsibilities as the firm owner
Mhm.
taken me out of the courtroom. But no, it's busy around here. I mean, we have the one thing I really like about our firm is our clients, they don't need an appointment to come see us. If they need to come see us, they just come in. And so a typical day for me, I could get here at 9 o'clock or so, start going through emails. A client could walk in that had a car accident over the weekend. So I go make time for them, get the information and, and get them off and running. Then, I could have, 3 or 4 settlement calls in a row. We could have um, a court conference that I do have to go cover for a case I'm still monitoring. Every day is different, which is what I really like about it. No 2 days are the same, but they're always really busy.
So we even kind of juggled just to fit this in, but we managed to do it, didn't we?
We did, yeah. I was I'm not a tech person, Zane. Neither is my firm, so I'm trying to bring us in the 21st century, and we had a few technical difficulties on my end getting on. So yes, things like that. You just got to plan for it and just kind of roll with the punches and do the best you can with it.
So do you have some associate attorneys that are now working at your firm? Or are you doing most all of the work yourself?
So yes, I do have we do have one other I do have another attorney at the office. He handles all of the litigation files, and so my main job title here with the files is I handle most of the files pre-litigation. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Between myself and my paralegal, we work them up. If I'm able to settle them, great. If we can't, I'm generally the one to draft a summons and complaint to put it into court. But once it goes beyond that point, it goes to my coworker who handles the cases from there on out.
Are you looking to grow your business, or are you pretty happy with where you are right now?
Well, I'm happy where we are now, but I am thinking about growing the business. I do feel like with just the amount of new cases we have coming in, the amount of cases we have going into court, pretty soon, the numbers could get overwhelming for the two of us, and you certainly
Mhm.
don't want that to happen because we still want to be able to provide our clients the customer service that they've become accustomed to over the last 60 years. And so, yes, at the risk of spreading myself too thin, I think I've been thinking a lot over the last like month or two about bringing someone else on and growing a little bit here.
So you recently got, or I've got down here on the research, $390,000 for two clients who were rear-ended in a low-speed accident with almost no visible damage to the cars. How do you win a case like that? I know that that can be challenging. And what was that like? When the insurance company says, look at the photo. I mean, are you crazy?
So yes, in that case too, the defense, they hired an accident reconstructionist and a biomechanical engineer to calculate the exact speeds and the forces that were in play in the vehicles. But I think the issue is that our manufacturing of our cars today is so good, and it absorbs so much contact and takes so much of the force away from the people inside the car that there's a lot of accidents where you don't see a whole lot of visible damage. That's the whole point of the way these cars are designed nowadays. It doesn't mean the body didn't get hurt inside the car.
Mhm.
So in a case like that, yes, it was low speed. There weren't pictures that you would look at and be like, wow, those people really got smashed. But they had, objective injuries. Their doctors they did a good job of explaining their injuries to their doctors, and their doctors were able to causally relate their symptoms to the car accident. And so after, a lot of time in litigation, a lot of depositions, we were able to get that case settled for really good money at a mediation with a neutral party that kind of brought both sides together on it.
So, what is your area of specialty doing traffic accidents, or do you branch out into other areas? What are some of the other areas that you might work in?
So yeah, traffic accidents, that's our kind of bread and butter. That's our primary source of cases. But we also do a lot of, premises liability cases, which consist of, slip and falls, especially here in New England. We had a particularly brutal winter, so, slip and falls on snow and ice. Um, slip and falls in like, businesses, convenience stores. We do dog bites as well. Um, and essentially any kind of accident involving a motor vehicle. So it could be a car versus a pedestrian, a car versus a motorcyclist, a car versus a bicyclist. Anything involving a motor vehicle is, that's probably 60 to 65% of our caseload.
Hmm. So here, let's do some rapid fire. I always like to do is just kind of light. It's a good break in between. So, favorite movie quote you use in real life?
Well, you're gonna need a bigger boat from Jaws, one of my favorites. Like a top two movie of all time for me. I watch it a couple times a year with my wife. We're obsessed with it.
Best sports moment you've ever witnessed in person?
In person. I believe this was 1990. I was at Fenway Park, and Tom Brunansky, the Red Sox right fielder, made a catch right in the right field corner by Pesky's pole to secure a playoff spot on the last day of the season for the Red Sox. That was amazing. The energy that day was amazing.
That is a great one. A dog you fostered that almost became a permanent Petrosky.
Oh, we have her right now. Her name is Lucy,
What kind?
German Shepherd.
The Colby basketball game you never forgot,
Uh, my
or you'll never forget.
my sophomore year of college, the first time I was back in the state of Connecticut playing a basketball game since high school, I hit a 32-foot buzzer beater to beat Wesleyan to walk off win. I'll never forget that.
Wow, I bet not. Piece of advice Gene gave you that you still hear in your head.
Always be honest, always do things the right way. Cutting a corner is never worth it.
And one thing insurance companies hope clients never find out.
That going to an attorney and hiring an attorney right away If you don't do that, it's going to significantly um, undermine the value of your case.
So you're chairman of the board for the Riviera Memorial Foundation, which was started in honor of a Waterbury firefighter who died en route to an emergency call in 1990. What does that organization do for Waterbury kids?
Sure. So I actually just recently, I recently resigned from that board, so I'm no longer the chairman, but I'm still involved with the organization. So, but what the Rivera Foundation does, Rivera Memorial Foundation does, it provides year-round after school and summer care for the children of Waterbury. It provides after school tutoring during the school year. They provide financial literacy courses to the kids, first aid training, babysitting certifications. They run sports leagues. They do cheerleading. They do pageant competitions. And during the summer, they have summer camp and they take the kids to amusement parks and they go bowling and they go swimming. Um, and actually, in a couple of weeks, they're doing their yearly scholarship award banquet in which they give out over $15,000 in scholarships to graduating seniors, of which my firm sponsors 2 scholarships.
So you have how many kids?
How many kids do I have?
Yeah,
I have 2 children.
2 children. Because I saw in here you founded a mock trial team at your kids' middle school and almost made it to the state tournament. What's that like, watching 12-year-olds argue a case?
It's maddening if you've ever been around the 12. And it's actually seeing them in court is actually the good thing because they're actually well behaved. It's the practices that drive me insane at times. But actually, yeah, that post last year was the first year we did it, and we came very close to advancing. This year we entered again. We entered 2 teams, and both of our teams actually made it and advanced to the state playoffs in April. So we're super excited. The kids work really hard.
How fun. So I talked to an attorney um, uh, earlier today, actually, and um, she went to a a kids camp for where they argued cases at about 12, and she was talking about it fondly as one of her best memories as a kid. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in. So you coach youth sports, sponsor teams, foster rescue dogs. How does all that connect back to being the kind of lawyer you want to be?
So I really the thing that I've really kind of the thing that I want our firm to be known for, I want to be known as like a community partner for the people, where I live and work. To me, I think there's a responsibility as a business owner to give back to your community. And to me, there's no, better asset of the community to invest in like than the kids. We've all had help along the way. Someone helped us kind of get where we were to do something to put us in a better spot for us. It's something that my parents kind of harped on me from day one. Someone helped you, you need to be that person to help others. And so for me, that's I don't necessarily want people to think of, oh, there goes Dan the lawyer. I want to be like, oh, there goes Dan, he's the guy that was at our food drive last week, or he's the guy that supports our local sports, our sports leagues, and our helps our kids with college scholarships. That's what's important to me. Like I want to be known as a, like I said, I think a community partner is the best way to put it for me.
Yeah, you said clients aren't case numbers, and a lot of people just assume personal injury lawyers, in particular, um, the worst. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, it can get it can get hard at times because if you're if you're a bigger firm and you have a lot of clients, it's hard to get to know your clients on a personal level, on an individual level, because every case is different and every client, has different needs and wants different things from you. And so for me, it's I try to get to know all my clients on a personal, individual level. If I'm in the office and a new client comes in for a case, I'm the one that sits down with them and does the intake. I don't offload that to a staff member, to a colleague. I think it's important that the client gets to know me and I get to know the client right off the bat, because that'll just lead to better communication and better case results down the line.
Where would you like to see your firm go in the next, I don't know, 5 or 10 years?
So I recently opened a second office, where I live in my hometown.
Mhm.
And my goal ultimately, I would like to really build up, um, that office in my hometown and kind of have that be my home base. It's about 20-25 minutes from, from where I am now in Waterbury. And I just think, um, being able to grow and really help out like where I live, where my kids go to school, is very meaningful for me. And so that's where I'd like to see the next 5 years, really put the emphasis on growing that.
So, what do you think Gene would say if he could see the firm now?
I think he would be, I think he would be happy because I've done my best to, take what he taught me and just continue to put it into practice every day. Do things the right way, don't cut corners, be nice to clients, listen to them. Um, and so I think he'd be proud looking down.
So, so tell me if somebody is in Waterbury, Connecticut, or somewhere around that area, and they're in an auto accident or they have some legal issue that they need help with, how would they get in touch with you?
So our firm name is DeFranzo Petrosky. Our phone number has been the same for as long as I've known it. For the 13 years I've been associated with the firm, our number is, 203-756-7408. Our website is defranzolawfirm.com. And, one of the things I've really focused on is trying to build up a bigger online presence. We've, put a priority into, kind of building out our Google My Business page, asking for client reviews. I believe as I checked this morning, we had a 5.0, a 5-star rating on Google out of 120 reviews. So I think that reflects the quality and the quality representation and the personalized attention we give to our clients.